The basketball, both teams with a timeout. Get it to Gainey. He's been the guy in the second half. Gainey on the drive. Gainey lays it up.
Wow.
And good!
Put it on! Put on that bitch! Woo! Woo! Yeah, rub your hair! Rub your hair! Rub your... I don't know what you guys are doing on this Monday, but rub your hair. Had to throw a little basketball in after that big finish over the weekend. This is the House of Orange Live. He's Kerry. This is Frank. Let's rock and roll on this Monday night. Glad to see you guys in here. It is playoff week. It's here. We've talked about it all year. The goal was playoffs. We're here. There we go. This guy over here is going to the playoffs.
Yep.
All super chats tonight. Go to this man right here on playoff fund night. So if you're feeling generous tonight, any super chats or anything, throw them in there. We'll throw it to this guy so he can have the best time possible this weekend. I'm going to promote it throughout the show, so don't get mad at me, guys. It's promoting. He's a college kid, going to school full time. He's working, trying to make ends meet. He's going this weekend. Let's help him out a little bit this weekend. I've seen ball fans help so much around. Different channels get different money. Let's do it for a good call. Let's help this young man get to Columbus.
I really appreciate
let's
it.
help him have a good weekend. How are we feeling this weekend?
Great.
How are you feeling about this weekend as we're getting closer? As you're ready to make that trek?
I mean, the only thing that I've even thought about nervous-wise going into this game was just simply the weather, considering I'm going up there. And it's actually going to be warmer than I expected it to be. I was expecting the worst conditions possible. I was expecting it to get maybe 20 degrees the entire day. It's looking like it'll be about warmer than 20 degrees during the day, maybe around 20 at kickoff. I was expecting 5 degrees at kickoff, real field below zero. So I'm happy. I mean, I'm fine. I'll be nice and warm. I got enough clothes. I'm prepared for it, so it should be good. I'm really, 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 really excited for the game.
Sounds like it's going to be like a heat wave, 20 degrees, you said? Man, that's –
yeah.
You don't even need coat or pants or nothing, do you?
No,
Short sleeves and T-shirt weather, right? So
just the overalls.
There you go. There you go. So it's going to be a fun one. It's I'm ready for it. Playoffs. It's here. Do you think Ball Nation is going to take over Columbus?
I mean, I think there'll be a lot of people. I went to Alumni Hall tonight to try to get a toboggan for my parents that are going with me. We went to the 2 Alumni Halls, like close to us. There's one at the Westtown Mall, but that one's really small. And there's one on Paper Mill, and there's another one in Turkey Creek. We went to both of them, and they were both sold out of toboggans. And that was the busiest I had seen either one of those stores. So that was kind of an eye-opener. It's like they had a huge line to check out the one in Turkey Creek. There's probably 10 people waiting in line just to get checked out. That's something you don't really see in alumni halls. So just that kind of opened my eyes. I knew like everybody online had talked about going to the game and everything. But seeing it in person, like all these people are probably going to the game. I mean, they were getting warm clothes, so that typically is a telltale sign. So personally, I think there's going to be a lot of people up there. And considering all the statistics have been released by StubHub and SeatGeek and the other ones, and Tennessee ticket buyers are leading Ohio ticket buyers right now, percentage-wise. There's more people buying tickets to the game from Tennessee than there is Ohio as of right now. So that tells me all I need to know.
Hopefully it's Tennessee fans doing that as well. But I don't think people should underestimate the power of Ball Nation. When it comes down to it, I don't know of – and again, I don't follow other fan bases as much, but, we've seen Tennessee take over. I say take over. They've been – as far as road teams, you're never going to dominate a road team stadium, a big team. But, if you get it, a third of the way full or greater?
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, or if you get it a fourth or so greater, that's pretty good. The way they're anticipating this, it seems like that stadium's going to be at least a third, if not more, orange on Saturday. And I think that's a pretty good sign for Tennessee when that happens. Good things normally happen. This fan base is going up there fired up. This fan base would not be buying tickets if they weren't going up there playing to win.
Yeah.
This weekend. That's the bottom line on it. Tennessee's going to, I've been asked numerous times today, just down here, oh, it's Ohio State. How you feeling? I was like, what's your prediction? I said, win without hesitation. Really? Yes. We're going in this prepared to win every game. And that's, I think, what this team mindset will be as well. Let's hit a few comments here. Go Big Orange, said David Burgess, first one in on the night. Rhonda in the house said that shot never gets old. That Justin Gainey shot was that was fantastic. I've watched it probably, if I had $1 for every time I've watched it, I could eat good and do all. I'd probably have Ohio State ticket money easily for this weekend. Herb in the house. And Herb, I guess you're glad to know baseball schedule finally announced. They start with Hofstra the weekend of Valentine's Day. You called that one on it that they would start then. So it is in the fold. Tennessee did have a transfer pitcher earlier this evening. I did a video on that. Any baseball fans, check that out along the way as well. The Generals in the house. We are still ranked number 1 in basketball. Big Orange football. I was talking about that with some people I teach with and work with today about we're talking different teams. I'm in South Carolina. I'm talking with Clemson fans, South Carolina fans and such. And I stated to them, I said, we're truly in the golden age of Tennessee athletics because football team's in the playoffs. Basketball's number 1. They're going to have a legit shot to win the national championship. Whether they do or not, we'll see. Baseball's coming off national championship. Lady Vols, which is a big brand, is rolling as far as basketball. Lady Vols softball, when they get around to it, they'll be a top-notch team. We're truly in an age, and I don't know that Tennessee could have fully comprehended our fans. There's not many fan bases can fully comprehend when every single sport is rolling like this one is right now. It's pretty awesome. It's never in my lifetime. I know we had 98 where the football team and the Lady Vols won the national championship, but that's a pretty good year. That's a really good year. But just every team right now is rolling on it. Ed's got some bad news for you here. 26 degrees, light snow predicted.
That's fine. I'll take that any day of the week. Yeah, I'd rather take 26. I mean, 26 actually is warmer than considered it to be. I mean, I considered it to be around 20 at game time, if not lower. So 26, I'll be happy, very happy with 26. Throwing some snow in there too. A little bit of snow, not as much wind. I'll take that.
There's your key. As long as the wind's not blowing,
yeah,
it'll be fine on it. The only wind we need blowing is the wind from those Tennessee belts going to those Ohio State hind ends this weekend. That's the only thing we need going on here. Herb says, I know I can't wait for baseball. So, all right. I know you wouldn't be going up there to watch this game if it was a blowout. I feel pretty confident of that. So,
yeah, I definitely wouldn't. If they would have, like I said the other night, if Ohio State would have killed Michigan, beat them by 30, like you kind of expected them to do, and it still worked out that Tennessee would have to go up to Ohio State, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't. I don't think as many people would go up. But seeing the Ohio State play the way they just did, let's see, Vanderbilt could beat Ohio State if they played the same way. If Ohio State plays the same way they did against Michigan, like a middle of the pack SEC team could dominate Ohio State if they play the same way they did against Michigan. And I think that exposed a lot of flaws in Ohio State. It gave a lot of stuff on film that Josh Heupel will very easily take advantage of. So basically, that game was the deciding point. They lost to Michigan. They can lose to anybody. So that was the main contributor to making me decide whether or not I wanted to go or not.
Yeah, I mean, if Ohio State would have taken care of business, we wouldn't be playing them anyway. So
yeah.
They would have played Oregon, Big Ten championship, and Worst case, they would have probably been the 5 seed in that. But I think
Then
that gave a lot of people a lot of confidence because you saw Michigan ran on them. Well, what's Tennessee's strength? The run on them. Michigan's defensive line gave Will Howard, Ohio State, trouble. What's Tennessee's strength on defense? Defensive line. I just hope that Tennessee looks at that game plan that Michigan had. They look thoroughly. What did Michigan do? What did Nebraska do? What did some of these other teams who give them trouble do along the way? And what did they do along that time that gave them trouble? Because when we played Georgia, Ole Miss, it felt like gave us a blueprint, and we thought, man, we're going to do it our own way here. Tennessee's got to go in that same game plan because Will Howard, he can scramble, but he's not a dual threat guy. He can make you pay on that. Strengths, where we talked about it last week, we've had a week to think about it and look at it. Where do you think Tennessee, what do you think looks good for them as far as strengths this weekend?
I would say the biggest strength is the line of scrimmage on both sides. Our offensive line, I mean, it's healthy. It's as healthy as you can be at this point in the season. We haven't lost anybody like for the entire year, which is something that we really wish for going into the season. They've gotten better each week. I know pass protection, of course, get better, but I mean, their run blocking really stinking well right now. So I think they match up well. I specifically think they match up well just because of the amount that we do run the ball. If you run the ball 35 times, 35, 40 times in this game, you're going to be sitting pretty well because one of the things that Ohio State does is they don't really substitute their defensive line. And that was shown against Michigan. They left their defensive linemen in there for way too many snaps, and they were worn out, and they got beat at the end of the game because of that. They don't necessarily have deep depth. They don't rotate nowhere near as much as Tennessee does. And then you flip it to the other side. The Ohio State offensive line is actually really good if they're healthy, but they're not healthy. They're starting centers out, starting left tackles out, and they got some guard questions as well. Ryan Day even said today that they're going to be shuffling their offensive line at the guard play. The guard that did start against Michigan got dominated, so they are rotating guys in and out on the guards. They've already had to shift guys into the center position and the tackle positions. So that's a very different offensive line for Ohio State. And whenever you match that up against a Tennessee defensive line that's faced 0 injuries right now, they're fully healthy. They're 15 guys deep. Tennessee could take advantage of both offensively and defensively on this line of scrimmage things.
I think they have to. I saw people saying today that referring to Day's press conference like he was taking this game lightly. I think people take these coaches' word too I don't know, too personal.
They do.
And stuff sometimes. I mean, what are you going to do if you're a coach? I didn't even listen to it because I figure I could I've heard enough of them to know that you don't get many coaches who disrespect other programs anymore. It's the status quo. I mean, I think people look at things too literally. Now, Turrentine, I mean, might have given the Ohio State fans a little bit this week, but he's played there. He said this is nothing compared to an SEC environment. All right. We've all listened to it. It's not. I mean, it's up to Ohio State fans to prove it. They're pissed. They're upset with their team for losing to Michigan. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully you guys can take over the shoe this weekend. The biggest thing for me is going to be get out of the gates fast.
Yeah.
Don't let them come out and go down the field on you immediately.
First drive.
Yeah, exactly. If you come out that first, let's say if you put points on them and you hold them first drive, doubt's going to start creeping in.
Yep.
For
do the same thing you did at the start of the Georgia game.
Yeah.
Stop and score. It works. I mean, the Georgia crowd was out of it early. Tennessee let them back in it in the second quarter, but I mean, Tennessee dominated that first quarter of that game. So if you can do that again, that's not necessarily a crowd or a team or even a fan base or university as a whole that truly believes they're still going to come back and win the game. That's the thing about Georgia is you knew that Georgia was going to come back. Georgia expects to win every game. They expect to get down and easily come back and win the football game like they essentially did against us. And that's not the same thing this weekend in Columbus. That's two opposite programs. I get that they're hold themselves to the same standards. The Georgia football program and the Ohio State football program aren't even close right now. So I think you just got to play like you did against Georgia and just hopefully get it together in the second half.
Yeah, different outcome, different teams, different expectations, I think. Like I said, Georgia's had enough success against Tennessee recently. Yeah, they got hit in the mouth, but you think back to last year in Knoxville, first play of the game, Jalen Wright goes, 80 yards, 80-some yards for a touchdown, and nothing happened the rest of the game for Tennessee. I mean, I think this is definitely a very talented Ohio State roster. There's no doubt about it. It's probably one of the most talented roster, if not the most talented Tennessee's played all year long. I just think there's a different mentality as far as SEC. Like you said, Georgia, you do that against them, yeah, they feel pretty good. They're going to come back. Their fans feel pretty good about it. You hit Ohio State in the mouth, their fans are going, after what just happened to them with Michigan, that doubt's going to start creeping in here a long way, no doubt. We got 87 in here right now. Got a pretty good crowd. Let's up this thing a little bit, not a little bit, a lot in here. Let's make sure you hit that like, that share, that subscribe along the way. Again, any super chats tonight's going to this dude over here for his fund going up to watch Columbus. So let's throw him a few bucks up here tonight so he can have a good time up here tonight. Let's hit some let me go through. This is a good one. Ed says we cannot afford not scoring points in the first half or the second half. Well, if we don't score in the first half or the second half, we're in pretty big trouble. I know what you mean on this, so no, I'm having a little fun, Ed. But totally agree on that. If we go a half, we've got to be consistent with scoring points.
You have to
on it. We've got to get some points in the first half, got to get some in the second half. Totally agree on that one. Papa J, member of the channel, says both teams second half teams. We have to be up a few TDs, not try to rely on our defense. If we get up a few TDs, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
On
if
that
we get up, if we're up 14 in the second half, it's gonna be put down the anchors in the second half of the fan base and the coaching staff and the team. I mean, if you're up 14 second half, it's whatever you did against Oklahoma to hold that lead, you got to do the exact same thing this time.
Yeah, I mean, they just can't. If they get up, they can't go conservative.
No, just run the ball. That's all.
Yeah, this is not the time of year. I mean, if Dylan Simpson fumbles this week, this ain't the time to punish him for a fumble.
No,
you get his ass right back in the ball game and get it done. I mean, because you're down to what, 3 running backs this week?
Yeah,
with Sampson, Peyton Lewis,
I think
John Bishop.
I was thinking about today. Worst case scenario, Dylan Sampson has to have 30 carry attempts, in my opinion. Tennessee wins football games when he gets more than that. Ideally is 35 attempts just for him. I would like to see Tennessee run the ball 40-plus times with Dylan Sampson and then the other backs included because they will get worked in. So maybe 5 reps for Lewis and Bishop. I'd like that. You get over 40, I'm really confident about how Tennessee can do because at that point, the defense get brought up, and that makes it a whole lot easier for Nico just to make the simple throws and the simple plays. And if they're coming up and they're just focusing on the run, a simple slant route to Dante Thornton, and he's gone. So it works. Yeah,
and it can't be 40 carries for 100 yards. I mean, it's got to be effective yards and such. I mean, but I agree with. I mean, if they get that running game going, like I said, it's going to open up a slant to Thornton. I mean, we saw Brazel come alive the last game. Mike Matthews. I mean, our depth's getting tested this game because not so much our top end depth, but just depth in general. Because you're down to 3 scholarship running backs. You're down to, I mean, if it comes down to it, you're going to see Bray Staley, old Schofield,
I think you'll
Graham right here. I told the story. I taught there when he was an 8th grader, where he's had his sister in class actually. So there was a time where I'm pretty sure it was him. It was like, I'd wear Tennessee. Hey, you a coach? And I said, yeah. He's like, I won't be recruited by them. And then I of course, come clean with him. But be pretty cool to see Bray Staley come in. I mean, you're basically down to 6 wide receivers. So we got to stay healthy. But, yeah, at this point with Sampson, you've ridden him all year long. If you got to go 35, 40 carries just with him, then by God, you go 35, 40 carries with him.
Yeah, because I mean they abandoned that against Georgia. Like he was having a really good game, and in the second half we got down, and they just didn't run the ball with him as much as they could have. They got too scared to we have to score points. You have to throw the football to score points when they didn't necessarily have to do that. They could have just ran the football, continued to have the success that they did have doing that. And I think, and that was one of the storylines that some people brought up after the game is they just abandoned Dylan Sampson running the ball.
Yeah.
And I can't say that I don't think we lose by 14 if you continue to run the ball in the second half. You don't have to do it as much as you were, but just a little bit, drop it back just a little bit, and we would have been just fine. So if you get down in this game, just stick with the game plan until it's too late. If the fourth quarter hits, then you can abandon it if you have to, but you got to stay strong in the third quarter, and you just got to continue to run Dylan Sampson if you're having at least some success doing that.
I agree with you. And it's, that's where Tennessee has success. That's where their offense rolls is with Dylan Sampson. Yeah. This is not the game to get away from things. Mm-mm. I think Heupel pretty much said today they're not going to see anything different. Ohio State. And you know what? Here's the way I look at it. If you're going to execute, you can holler across the field and say, Dylan Sampson is getting ready to run off tackle. You stop it. If our guys block versus if we man up and go, stop it. That's why 2 years ago when the people went on about South Carolina having the plays, I didn't buy it. You man up and do it on it. Because my philosophy is I should be able to tell you what I'm going to run every time. And if my guys execute, we're going to do it. Just like a pitcher. If a pitcher is good enough, I can sit here and tell you I'm going to throw you a fastball, let her high, do something with it.
Yeah.
That's where it's at here. I think they've got to. This is not the week to get cute. Mm-mm. They've not run. They run trick plays against teams that can't do anything about it. This is not the week to come up and run trick plays. Do your thing.
They won't do that.
Out physical Ohio State, like you said, the offensive line's healthy. Who knows? Maybe we'll sneak David Sanders Jr. He's on campus. Maybe we sneak him in
practicing
for a few reps this weekend. I'm not being serious on that, but I'm like you. The injuries, Tennessee seems to be a pretty healthy team. We're not really down anybody we haven't been up to this point. You talked about Ohio State's line having issues. Tennessee should be able to feast on that along the way. I will hit this. We'll hit a little bit of portal, but I am going to hit this. They have got to fix this window with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
There is no reason any of these teams in the playoffs should be having to worry about depth because of the window. You said it last week. It's because of, the second semester and stuff. But I saw Penn State, their backup quarterback just hit the portal.
They got screwed during that too because, he does play, and he does play a lot. You can look at the stats. It's not necessarily he's not necessarily lighting up the stat board, but he's in the game a lot of the time. They do a lot of 2 quarterback sets where they'll have him a wide receiver and have Aller at quarterback, and they bring him in all the time. There's probably most time, it seems like every other series he comes in, and they also ran the ball with him a lot, and they also threw the ball with him a lot. So he was a very important factor in their offense. That's kind of like Princeton Fant for us. He was a wrinkle in the offense. It's essentially us using Princeton Fant more than we did in 2022. And then you make the playoffs and Princeton Fant says he's transferring. It does hurt them because that's not a Penn State team that could afford losing that, considering they don't have the weapons outside. They have a tight end and they have a great running back, and that's about all they got. So they had to rely on the different gimmick stuff with the 2 quarterbacks. And now that they don't have that, if I'm SMU, I'm extremely happy looking forward to this game, especially considering it's going to be at noon. This one is kind of set up perfectly for SMU to do something, in my opinion.
they've got to fix these transfer portal windows. Teams should not be
Yeah.
having to deal with the playoffs and deal with the portal. I had a beef in baseball. Tennessee's out in Omaha to win a national championship, and that comes before everything. But the portal window's open. Guys are taking visits. Teams are stacking their teams because they don't make it to Omaha. Yet Tennessee can't host these guys and get them on campus because they're trying to win a national championship. Yet these others are able to host them and get them in the fold.
Yep.
The NCAA is full of idiots.
There they are.
It's full of idiots, and I don't get it. And nothing that they do, literally not one damn thing they do makes sense. And I could break down every single decision or thing that they have intact and tell you they're stupid on it. And I don't like to say that about people, but they make a lot of money.
They do.
And they're a bunch of idiots in what they do. And the fact that you talked about it today, Kerry got featured. He had a tweet in a Barstool article today talking about the ref for this weekend, who was the ref during the Purdue game, Music City Bowl. Is that right?
And some other ones. He was the ref for the
Was
Virginia Tech Miami game this year, and then the Duke and Miami debacle years ago where they had that special the kickoff and they lateraled the ball 30 times and scored the touchdown and then walk off, and the crew missed like a minimum of 5 instances where the rules were broken during that same play, and it awarded that, I think it was Duke or I don't remember who won the game, but it awarded the one team the win. And they actually got suspended for the next season. That crew got suspended for, I think it was 5 games. Some people said it was the full season, so I'm not really sure, but I do know that they did get suspended. And here we are, I don't know, 10 years later, and that same head ref from that game is now the head ref of a college football playoff game. So that to me, I mean, I'm not going to be one that's like, I've never been one to publicly shame the refs of Tennessee lost the game because of officiating. And I won't do that no matter what happens in this game. But it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I honestly do think there will be one extremely controversial call in this game. I just hope that, of course, that it benefits Tennessee. And I'll be the first one to say it. If Tennessee gets the gift, some payback essentially, I owe you one kind of thing from Jerry, whatever his last name is, then I mean, I'll be the first to say it. Like Ohio State, you got screwed. And we all told you this going into this game. This guy doesn't necessarily have a brain in between his ears. He's going to screw over somebody at some point. You just got to hope it's not your team. And I was thinking about this today too. I don't necessarily know how I want this game to play out officiating wise. I don't know if I want this to be a highly officiated game where they call 10 penalties on each team, or if I just want each team to have like 3 penalties. But the issue with that would be if they only call 3 penalties on like each team got away with whatever they wanted to. There'll be dozens of misholding calls, probably a few pass interference calls. So I don't necessarily know what I want or what I expect or what I would prefer, because I do fully expect this to be a poorly officiated game on either side. So honestly, it's mind blowing to me that they put them in that situation.
It's a good. What conference are they?
He's an ACC. None of the
it won't be Big Ten or SEC calling that one.
No, it's I mean, because he was the same head ref for the Purdue game. The crew is totally different from the Purdue game, so we won't have that same line judge. We won't have anybody else. It's just the head ref, but that is, I'm assuming, the same as that crew, considering it just happened this year as the Virginia Tech Miami game. And if you didn't watch that game, Miami was gifted a win early in the season on a Hail Mary that was ruled a touchdown, and was apparently they had enough to overturn it. And there was a bunch of other calls in that game as well. So this is not a very good crew. I do expect, I'll say it a billion times, one team's getting screwed over on Saturday, and it probably will make headlines. So it's just what you got to expect. And I was going to say this a week or two ago. I knew that there would be ACC officials for this game, but I was terrified of who it was going to be because I knew there was a possibility it would be this guy. And of course, they did it anyway. So we'll see, I guess.
And it just seems like every time we play a Big Ten team and it's close, officials try to take over a game. Doesn't matter the sport. We just saw it this last Saturday. Fortunately, Tennessee was able to overcome the officiating in Illinois, but didn't happen back in March against Purdue. Didn't happen back Music City Bowl a few years back as well. It seems like, well, thank God we're not playing Purdue. I'll say that because if so, you might as well just get prepared to just get it handed to you.
I mean, I will say, like, the head ref for the Tennessee-Ohio State game is essentially the reason for the resurgence of Tennessee football. I mean, that Purdue game, that last call, essentially changed the direction of the program that Tennessee football was heading. I mean, you lost the Music City Bowl. You lost it the way you did. Jalen Wright, who was called on that play that didn't score a touchdown, is now in the NFL and thriving. We went 11-2 the next season after that. We had essentially a bad year the next year, and we lost, 3 games or 4 games with Joe Milton at quarterback. And then this year we're back in the college football playoff. So that game essentially in itself has totally changed the direction of which way Tennessee football goes. So to me, I'm very thankful for the way that game ended because I don't think we're in that same spot today if you don't get your heart broken like that, because that pushed a lot of guys to work harder, especially at Jalen Wright. And that also, I think that game did change some decisions for some guys. I think there were some guys that wanted to go to the NFL. They get screwed over the way they did. They didn't feel happy about that. They don't want that to be their last college memory of playing football. So they decided to come back another year, and then we had the year of 2022 like we did. So me personally, I'm very thankful that the referee screwed that one up.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a real good point. I mean, sometimes you take the good with the bad with the good. And
yeah, I mean, it was just the Music City Bowl. It's like, I wasn't like, now it's like, I don't care. Of course I cared for like the week that it happened, but looking back, I'm really thankful because who knows where we'd be right now without that.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a good segue to this comment here. Cajun Ball says coaches looking for people don't have time to look at players during this period when in the playoffs. A Bama 5-star jumps in, possibly going to Ole Miss. I mean, Tennessee's hosting visitors, but at the same time, I saw a comment earlier. Josh Heupel was on the Rich Eisen show, and Eisen asked him, how much time do you have to devote to non-coaching stuff? And he said too much. I mean, these teams like that, like Bama and Ole Miss, who, let me remind you, did not make the playoffs. What do they have? They're playing in. Frankly, I wish they'd get rid of the bowl games. They're irrelevant now. Sure, use them for the playoff. That's great. But if Tennessee doesn't make the playoffs, I don't know that I give a crap anymore about them playing in a bowl game. But I don't know. Maybe my opinion changes on a year if they're young or whatever. But to me, yeah, Alabama, Ole Miss, they've got more time to spend on the portal. They just do than a Tennessee and Ohio State or whomever. Not that these teams aren't spending time on it, but their priority is to try to win a national championship.
Yeah.
Here. And it's, I keep using the example of Omaha on it. You shouldn't have to be trying to build a roster for next season within the current season because the high school recruiting windows are closed.
Yeah.
Why in the hell are we opening the portal up while stuff's going on? I'm going to let you respond to something here in a minute. I'm going to hit it here because I think you had a good point. We got to keep them being all sides. This was one you brought. Miami beat Duke. I can't remember that. I vaguely remember this one here a little bit. I'm going to hit this one here. We occasionally hear stuff in the NFL about them having bad calls. It's not that often though. And I go back to my point on the NCAA being a joke and being an idiot. The SEC is supposed to be the biggest conference in America. Big Ten, they want to claim it too. Why do we have guys, and I'm not cracking on this profession, you hear guys that are realtors through the week and then they're reffing a game on the weekend. Yeah. Or again, that's nothing against them. It could be whatever. Hell, they could be bagging groceries during the week and then reffing on the week. I don't know, but or they could be a teacher. I mean, I am a teacher. They could be a teacher during the week and reffing on them. Why are these not full-time guys doing that? Makes no sense to me, and it's par for the course with the NCAA. But I'm gonna let you defend yourself on this one because I agree with your take on it myself. But
I mean, I have no issue disagreeing, Tony. Of course, I know what you think of my opinion is ridiculous or doesn't agree with your opinion. I just believe that I mean, it's the freaking Music City Bowl. I'll put it like that. You win the game, we go on as a program. You lose the game, you go on as a program. You lose the game the way we did, you get a game stolen from you the way that we did. That changes things. Heupel was pissed. Everybody part of the program was pissed. You had national media members that were hate Tennessee that were like that was stolen from Tennessee. That kind of put some fire under the program. It was okay. We have national attention over a Music City Bowl. If that was a huge game, yeah, that'd have been everywhere. Everybody in the world would have known about that one. But that gave Tennessee some light. That made some players make some huge decisions of where they want to go with their career. Do we want to stick with this team considering what just happened? Or do we want to go to the NFL? Or what do we want to do? Do we want to stay and come back? And you look at what happened. Each guy made their decision. I don't think we really lost anybody after the 2021 season other than Bayless Jones. And then you have the 2022 season that you did. So I personally don't think that we're in the position we are today without that ending because that changed so much for the Tennessee football program. Because I'm sure that was something that they probably had that play, that screenshot of Jalen Wright reaching the ball across the goal line. They probably had that all in their playbooks or something. Like it was, remember what happened in this, and we just don't want to be in this position again. We don't want to be in an in-game, close-game position. We want to win each game by 15, 20, like we pretty much did in 2022 outside of Georgia and South Carolina. So it is what it is. I mean, that's all I got.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you on it. Sometimes the bad happens and you learn from it. Like I said, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth on it. You win that football game, maybe you're not as hungry. You're like, yeah, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
We've arrived or something. Maybe not. I mean, and I wonder if it prevented some guys hitting the portal because there's always guys that we don't know. I've seen VolQuest staff talk about this, about how they've heard so many guys hitting the portal who end up hitting it. And, who are guys possibly that are contributors that maybe it's like, yeah, man, I'm not going out like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good point on this. Do you think the Ohio State talent is going to be too much for Tennessee?
No, not at all. I don't. You can be scared of the Ohio State talent that you want to. They have the talent that they have, but they haven't necessarily put that out this season. It's the same position Tennessee's in. Tennessee has the talent to win a national championship game right now. Like you look across the board, I don't think anybody can say they don't necessarily have talent anywhere, maybe except the offensive line. And if you want to make that argument, there is guys that have talent in the offensive line. They're tucked back there they're tucked back behind in the depth chart. They're just not playing. And that's the only position. Defense line has talent. Linebackers have talent. Secondary has talent. Kicker even has talent. Like there's talent across the board for Tennessee. Tennessee's plays in the SEC, so I don't necessarily see how there would be a talent disadvantage. I don't care how much they pay their players. They picked up the Judkins kid from Ole Miss, the running back. He hasn't necessarily done anything amazing. They had the Henderson kid that I'm pretty sure they developed straight through as a running back. He hasn't necessarily done anything. Will Howard, in my opinion, has taken a step backwards than what he was at Kansas City. I mean, not Kansas City, Kansas State. The wide receivers, I will say the wide receivers, that is something that you should be concerned about. But at the same time, their tight end room. Tight end room to me isn't very good. They don't have any playmakers there. Offensive line, their offensive line, if they were healthy, yeah, there is definitely a talent discrepancy there, just considering that most of those guys will be NFL guys. And if you look at the Tennessee line right now, Cooper Mays would probably be the only person I can confidently say is going to do something in the NFL. So right now, talent's not really a talking point because each team has talent, and in reality, it doesn't matter how much talent you have, they still got to put it together and still got to win a football game.
In this day and age, is this whole adage of the coaches aren't developing players overblown? I mean, we've got the portal
Yeah.
now, and people say, "Well, Ellerby's not developing talent." He's been here 4 years now. Cooper Mays has been here that whole time. Javante Spraggins the whole time. Campbell 2 years. Dane Davis has been here the whole time. Jackson Lampley's been here the whole time. Carriage is going on year or two in here.
Yeah.
Hurd the first year. Hurd made improvement. Is Ellerby not? I mean, who's developed these guys then?
Yeah,
It sure as hell wasn't
no.
Father Time or Mother
Yeah.
Nature
I'm not.
that did.
I understand. I mean, the only example you could necessarily make is a guy like Spraggins that's been here the entire time. He kind of peaked in 2022, and he just kind of played good enough the last 2 seasons. There's nothing been off the charts there. But I think at the same time, there wasn't really any pressure on him in 2022. There was other guys on the offensive line that we really shined light on. So, of course, he performed because there was no pressure for him to perform. In the past 2 years, he's been in a position where it's like you need to be a leader of the offensive line other than Cooper Mays. So, to me, I think he's played okay. Definitely has disappointed me the past 2 years of he could have been playing a lot better. I thought he turned
Mays?
No, Spraggins.
Oh, Spraggins, yeah.
Yeah, like I thought he could have been a second or third round draft pick and be this dominant guy that he kind of showed highlights of in 2022. But I don't know. There's been a little bit of a drop off with him. So there's some things going on there. But I mean, he still got developed into a good player. So it is what it is.
I think late round draft pick is where he's at. I agree with you. I think especially after we saw Darnell Wright go to be a top 10 pick. But I mean, I still want to see some of these high school guys develop. That's going to be the key thing with Ellerby. But at the same time, he's had these guys the whole time. And the fact that they're up for an award on it, Cooper Mays is up for the Remington. I mean, I'm going to have to disagree. I got to hit this. Cooper Mays is natural talent. He doesn't need development. I mean,
he had to.
Yes, he does. Every guy that hits campus needs development. I mean, I use Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence come in as God's gift to quarterbacking. And you see what he is now. I don't think he developed a whole lot at Clemson. Mm-mm. He was good.
Yeah.
Clemson people will go on about how great he was. I mean, he won national championships as a freshman. Did he really progress a whole lot? Look at him in the NFL. He's doing nothing on here. Nothing. I mean, he had 1 year. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I use that for every player. I've been fortunate to make a connection in baseball. A high-end major league prospect in 2 years. And I know the work this dude's putting in and how he's getting developed on here. He's got major league talent. But if you won't put the work in, these coaches can't do their job. You're not going to develop the way you should on it. I think there's some. Yeah, I agree. There's still questions on Ellerby. I totally agree on that. But at the same time, most of these guys, it's a pretty solid unit for the most part. I mean, look at Dane Davis. For God's sake, he played at Sullivan East High School. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm getting at with that one. They're perennially awful at football. Mm-hmm. And here you go. This guy's he's developed over time. He's been pretty dang good. The only rough game that I think he had this year was against Oklahoma. Other than that, he's been really good.
Yeah, it's been really good.
I mean, there's other talents. Hurd has gotten better. I mean, his Hurd has gotten in shape as well. And the question's going to be, can he develop David Sanders Jr., some of these other guys, Nick Moore, some of these other guys coming in. They'll go to the portal. I mean, they just had a guy from Arizona in this past weekend. Be curious to see if they can close off. But, part of it, too, I think we put a little more emphasis on the high school rankings now. Do you develop your high school guys? But, I mean, if you get a guy on the portal or out of the portal, you got to develop them just the same.
Hit the comment. I see the comment.
Hang on. Let me get a couple of these here. I'm
There's a comment that I don't like because
okay.
it's simply not true.
Okay, I'll get down.
You should be able to see it whenever
All right,
you
I'm
see
gonna go
it.
down the line here. I'll get to OSU's just one of the bumps in the road for a path back to Georgia. I like it.
Just imagine you beat OSU, Oregon, Texas, and then Georgia for a national championship.
That would be the
They
path.
would hate us forever.
They would.
Because, I mean, at that point, Tennessee won a national championship game of football with the hardest path in college football history.
Yeah, for sure. And people say, well, if a team gets the 12 seed, they've got an easier. Well, yeah, because you're the last team in. I mean,
yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to be seeded.
Yeah.
As the last team in is really
they're
not supposed to win.
I wouldn't say the 12 seed necessarily has the hardest path. I think a team like Tennessee and Ohio State does. It's with this year's model. I mean, Clemson.
The 12 has an easy path, but
yeah, they do have an easy path because right now you play Texas, the Texas team that necessarily hasn't looked the greatest. They blew a lead. I get it was a 3-point lead, but they still blew a lead to Georgia with a backup quarterback that played none at all and did nothing in the second half. So they lost the SEC championship the way they did. They got quarterback concerns with Quinn Ewers because we don't know exactly what he's going to turn into. And then you get past Texas, which Clemson's a program that definitely has the capability to do that. Then you play Arizona State the next weekend. And the only thing that anybody knows about Arizona State is they have a great running back that's gotten hopped up a lot recently, which for somehow, in some way, he was higher up on Heisman voting than Dylan Sampson, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And they also have a freshman quarterback. So Arizona State's quarterback and Nico are the only two freshman quarterbacks to lead their team to college football playoffs. So you match up against Arizona State, you got to like that matchup, especially the way their coach handled the end of that BYU game. You got to be sitting pretty. Then you're sitting.
They're playing pretty good football right now. I mean, we won't see them, but this is a pretty good point. Players don't stay long enough. I'm trying to figure.
And that's the bad thing we'll hit again on the Penn State quarterback. Like, he was probably going to start next year. It appears that Drew Aller is going to go to the NFL, and if not, Drew Aller would have only had one more year. So the Penn State backup quarterback would have been starting next year or the year after that. So I don't understand that. And James Franklin got on today and tried to defend him, which I wouldn't have defended him. Just stick it out another year or two. I'd rather stick it out in the program and get my 1 year to shine and go somewhere and bounce around for two different other schools. It's just ridiculous is what it is.
It is. That says a lot about Franklin, though. He didn't throw him under the bus either.
Well, he's just not a good coach, and we all know that.
Franklin?
Yeah.
Did you miss what he did at Vanderbilt?
I was about to say that. He was better at Vanderbilt than he is at Penn State.
He's done a pretty good job up there. I mean, he's just he's kind of like Kiffin. He's not won that big one, really.
Well, Kiffin at least beat Georgia. Franklin's played
and then turn around and lost to Florida.
Well, Franklin's
and lost to Kentucky.
The program. I mean, Franklin's been up there for so long. He's had plenty of chances to do something, and it's just not. He's had so many chances to make the college football playoff going into this year with the teams that he's had, and he's still blown it every year. So that tells me all I need to know about him.
Let's see. This is pretty accurate comment. Let me see here. Is it this one? I don't know what you guys want out of Cooper Mays. He's up for the Remington.
Well, he did lose the Remington. The Ohio State won that one somehow.
But still, you're up for it. That means you're one of the best.
How many? He's given up what? Maybe 3 sacks the last 2 years. He's definitely gotten so much better. He's now in a position now. He's getting drafted next year. He's an old offensive lineman that's been a part of our program for a long time, and he's getting drafted next year. That's not normal. You don't see guys necessarily doing that. You see guys that have been a part of programs for as long as he has, and then they get be an undrafted free agent somewhere. He's turned from a 3-star prospect from Knox Catholic. That's a center. Center prospects are never really expected to necessarily blossom into something. Now he's All-American. So there definitely was development there, and he definitely has gotten better each year. And this is a guy that what did he have last summer? What, a hernia surgery?
Yeah.
He had a hernia surgery, and his whole job is squatting down. So, and he's performing excellent at that. So to me, that's ridiculous if I had to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Can you highlight comment? I don't know which one you're referring to, actually.
That was it. That was it.
Oh, okay. I mean, they, I don't know. I get the argument with high school. I agree on it. But at the same time, it's a different day and age on it. It really is. And I know none of the high school guys so far have made big contributions. I think we're going to see more of that. I mean, Sanders Jr. has to be starting next year. I think Sham Umaroff is going to be a part of it. I mean, Hurd was what, redshirt freshman coming in on it. I get he was highly talented, but still he's gotten better along the way. Go Big Orange. I've seen Tennessee playing every major bowl. Yeah, if they win, they play in the Rose Bowl. That's a good one. I'm not big enough, SEC. Let's just get you to start center. Now, I'm not big enough. I'd get pushed around pretty easily. If you need a sure-handed wide receiver, though, I'm your guy, though, on that one. Let's see. Yeah, this is the big thing for me of Franklin, that whole scandal. And, of course, Bill O'Brien I think Bill O'Brien's the one that really stabilized that program. That was a very, very, that would have buried some programs. I think that said a lot about Penn State's leadership. They got O'Brien to really stabilize it. And then Franklin he's got to get over the hump. And I think at some point he leaves before he does, but we got you, Tony. We're with you. Thanks, man, for being in here. We're with you on this one. I get what everybody's saying with the line. The proof's going to be for this line. Can these high school recruits develop? That's going to be it. And I get it. I totally understand. It's same with wide receivers because we've just watched 4 wide receivers hit the portal, and they were all recruits on it. Yet Brew, Thornton, Brazel, they're all transfers. Matthews has been pretty limited in what we've seen out of him. Squirrel White. Squirrel's a recruit. I mean, they have developed, but I'd say Squirrel's hit a wall this year.
Yeah, definitely.
He's underperformed in my opinion. And then, of course, Bray Staley, we've seen little or nothing out of him. We may see it more next week out of him as well. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely questions, but here's my thing, man. We're 4 years in. The first 12-team playoff, we're in it.
That's all that matters.
We're in it. And if we don't win on Saturday, yeah, I'll be disappointed. We'll see how it plays out. This, to me, is a successful season, regardless of whether they win another game or not. And I'm not saying I'm content. Maybe I am, but I want more. Obviously, I want to go as far as we can go on this. And I think Tennessee the one team that I've got to see Tennessee be able to handle to believe it is Georgia. Other than that, I think we can beat anybody. I really do. And I think we can beat Georgia. We proved it. We've just got to finish the game with it as well. We talked about where can Tennessee exploit Ohio State. Where do you think Ohio State can exploit Tennessee this weekend?
I think if they can get if they can get some blocking with their offensive line and allow their wide receivers to do what their wide receivers are capable of, they do match up very well against their secondary. McCoy's, of course, great. He's probably one of the best corners I've ever seen for Tennessee. Ricky Gibson's good. He's definitely not the greatest. I would probably give the edge to their 3 starters over Gibson. After that, it kind of becomes a concern. And then their safeties, in my opinion. Can Will Brooks keep up with them? Can Turrentine perform well? Can Thomas play well? It's just it's a concern of mine personally, considering they are that talented at wide receiver, and considering the way our secondary did play against Georgia when we didn't get pressured, they got picked apart like it was 2021 or in 2022 again. So that does concern me. I do think they can take advantage of that if they somehow can stop Tennessee's front seven, which I personally just don't see happening.
I think you made the point, though. If we give Will Howard time, he's going to pick us apart. You can't let elite level wide receivers like that have time to just run open. The key's going to be getting that pressure on it. And we talked about it last week. I'm going to let you answer this. So I know we're going to go because you said it last week. What do you think the one key unit's going to be for Tennessee in this game that has to step up?
I would assume that I said defensive line. I don't know if I said that or not, but
let me rephrase that. Because you're right. Let me reword that. The one unit we have to have, would I say play above their means, maybe, or play above their mean? The one unit we have to have, the line has to do their thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to give the answer away if I get to it too much.
Secondary?
No, the linebackers.
The linebackers? Oh, yeah. Yeah,
the linebackers have got to – we cannot have a game where they don't cover or they're missing tackles. I mean, if that's the case, we're in trouble.
Yeah, I would say.
I think the big thing, though, is, and you said it earlier, this is not a tight end-driven team.
No, it's
not.
That
plays in Tennessee's hands.
Yeah.
If
we would have played
Penn State, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If we would have played Penn State, then there is a huge advantage for Penn State with the linebackers and tight end matchup because they actually have a stud tight end and they probably have a lot better depth than Ohio State does. Because Ohio State, I mean, their tight ends, I mean, he's good, but there's nothing. If you look at the stat sheet, there's hardly anything on there. So I don't necessarily see a lot. I do see that really does help Tennessee. And it's kind of if you can win this game, it does help Tennessee going forward okay, the linebackers, this is a great wake-up call for them because that's a room that people should be scared of. I mean, at this point, you have Jeremiah Thielander and Arian Carter. What do you have after that? Because right now, all that you have after that is Edwin Spielman, pretty much. Because
you got Perry, who's played quite a bit.
Well, to me personally, Perry's just not it. There was a reason why Jalen Smith was playing as much as he was, and now he's gone. So linebackers is a very scary aspect for me because you need to have them build up some confidence going forward. If you can win this game, the linebackers, they're tested the next week against Oregon because Oregon can pick apart any defense in the country because all you have to do is watch the Oregon-Penn State game. They made a pretty good Penn State defense look like they were a high school team. So it's definitely concerning.
I was surprised how high scoring a game that was. I expected that to be a lower scoring game.
I was shocked. I mean, Oregon essentially, Penn State couldn't stop Oregon. Oregon just didn't score on basically every drive that they needed to or wanted to score, it seemed like. So, and the same thing could be said the other way. I mean, Penn State ran the ball, moved the ball on them more than they had on any team the entire season since they played Kent State. So Tennessee matches up against Oregon. You got to love the way your offense matches up against their defense because we're just going to be able to run the ball at will, and Dylan Sampson can run for over 200 yards easily in that game. You do have to be scared of how their offense against their defense matches up, especially considering what we saw against Georgia.
Could Heupel coaching Gabriel help him any? I mean, he's totally different player, totally different offense.
Yeah, but I mean, dude's good.
Yeah.
When it's RPO, I've seen one other quarterback, I saw him in person, that was that good at RPOs, getting the ball out that quick, and that was Tua whenever he was at Alabama, whenever he came into Knoxville, and he lit us apart. I mean, it's a special talent being able to essentially have the stinking ball in your running back's hands and then have it in your wide receiver running across the middle in a matter of that. So he's definitely very scary if you have to face up against Dylan Gabriel.
We are definitely doing predictions tonight, Ed.
Yep.
Good question on that one. Hopefully Tennessee can expose the run game. I agree with Cajun Ball. If we make it through the gauntlet, yeah, if we get through to play Georgia at the end, I think we got to be a pretty confident football team at that point, because it is definitely going to be a gauntlet to get there. And but it's playoffs. It is what it is. I think it's going to be Sampson getting the majority. Bishop relieves him, and then possibly a little bit of Peyton Lewis. But I think it'll be Sampson and Bishop is who I think. I mean, if something, hopefully, obviously it doesn't, happens to Sampson, I think Bishop becomes your go-to guy then, and then Lewis. I mean, that's all they got. I mean, does Miles Kitzelman become the Mike Allstott here later on if it comes down to it? I mean, I don't know.
You have to.
Yeah. Chuck Black, what's going on, man? Good to see you in here. He says, go Vols. Yeah, hopefully Nico's throwing freezer balls, getting ready for this weekend, getting ready for wide receivers or just catching cinder blocks or bricks this week, getting ready for it. And hopefully they got Max Gilbert out there kicking cinder blocks or something, getting him ready as well. Because, yeah, that football is going to be very hard this weekend. I agree with this one. You got to get Nico out rolling a little bit on it. He can play rolling out of the pocket. Yep. And to me, that's his game. I would let him run and get hit early.
Yeah.
Because he's one of those, it seems like when he gets hit, he said it the one game. I don't remember which
Alabama game
woke him up.
It was the Alabama game. It said that hit where he got knocked out of the game woke him up. So
yeah, I would let him run early and get hit and get him in the flow of the game. I think guys like that really need to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it bores them, but at the same time, that's their game. They want to get hit. They want to get in a rhythm on it. I think that's what they have to do as well. To me, though, on defense, gosh, I think it'll be a long night if we're not getting pressure, but I feel like we will. I'm expecting my predictions will reflect a lower scoring game. I think both teams, you got two top 10 defenses. I will be absolutely shocked if it becomes a high scoring game. I would almost be shocked to the point of if either team gets to the 20s on this one. I think it's going to be that kind of game, especially with the cold weather. We'll see. I really think that Tennessee's advantages over Ohio State outweighs Ohio State's advantage over Tennessee.
Yeah.
I really do. And I'm not disrespecting Ohio State by any means. It's one of the most talented teams we're going to see all season. Mm-hmm. Worst case, they're the second most talented team we're going to see behind Georgia. And but we'll see. It's going to be there. But this plays, I don't know, these environments where Tennessee fans pack the place normally work out pretty well. My big concern is 8 o'clock on the road. That's it. But, we seem to be getting a little better at those. And we'll see where it goes this weekend.
What do you think about just them in general now that their backup quarterback, he has entered the transfer portal, but he is still going to play in this game? What do you think something like that of you knock out Will Arnold, which Tennessee has knocked out a bunch of quarterbacks this season. You knock out their starting quarterback. You got a guy that comes in, hasn't played that much, who's in the portal essentially, and was allowed to play this game over a guy who they all want and expect to start next season in Julian Sayin. So I don't know. I think that's weird. And I know that they said Ryan Day said it today. I think there's two guys on the team, the quarterback and another guy that has entered the transfer portal, but is still playing, which is ridiculous. And then there's another two guys that are entered the transfer portal and they're not playing. So I think, to me personally, you can't do that. that causes locker room issues, that causes quarterback room issues, because you knock out the quarterback, you got a quarterback running in there that's quit on your team already. He's already leaving after this, essentially, if you lose this game. So I don't know how you necessarily root around this one player, considering you know that the quarterback behind me is gone if we lose today. So that's just it causes a weird chemistry thing to me, in my opinion.
I think it's totally odd. I mean, that's like Heupel said today. If you're in the portal, you're not playing.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing. I mean, especially if Will Howard gets knocked out and you have to go to the backup. I mean,
Yeah, that's
it's going to be like the longest yard, or these guys just going to let the defensive line get through them, just drilling
you may
or something. I mean, playoffs be damned, It's like, I think it's a very bad move. The Ohio State, their whole thing just seems like, and we'll see. I think it seems like possibly the wheels could come off that program.
And that's the thing. It's like that fan base is so passionate. They're essentially, you could look at them as any other fan base in the nation. They love their football team. They're willing to ride or die with their football team. It's just the coaching staff and even the universities, just the decisions they're making. Like, it seems like since since Urban Meyer left, that program has just made some awful decisions. And it pretty much all falls down on Ryan Day. Because, I mean, that's a fan base that has been let down year after year for however many years now. That they never really saw under Urban Meyer. And now here we are going into this Saturday, and you're playing a team that has a fan base that's ready to explode. They are ready to, heck, if they get beat by 10 points on Saturday, they're going to be rioting on Sunday morning to get Ryan Day fired. So
they will. It's a 1-point loss.
It's very weird about how this narrative around them is going into this game, in my opinion.
I think you look back on it a couple of years, that Georgia game in Atlanta that ended at 12:01 on the missed field goal. Yep. I felt like that I still feel like this day that was a game Ohio State should have won. Mm-hmm. And I felt like coaching staff mismanaged that football game.
Yeah, they had, what was it, a 14-point lead there in the fourth quarter? They blew it.
Yeah, and the last possession, it felt like it was mismanaged. I mean, C.J. Stroud was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was.
They mismanaged the end of the game.
Yeah, and I think another thing that it's kind of weird to pick out. Apparently, they just have neglected the kicker position, even after that's happened. They haven't prioritized that seemingly at all. I think it still may be the same kicker, but they've made no means to try to replace that guy if it comes to it. So that's kind of weird. They haven't added anybody out of the portal. That's something that Tennessee's done each season, is they've gotten a kicker out of the portal, and they don't really bring in the top tier prospects kicking and then give that guy a shot. So even their fan base is pissed about how they're handling the kicker position. So the fan base is just livid at them right now, which is understandable. So,
yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll give them something to go a little crazy about. I mean, we've seen it with special teams. I mean, I wish Reese Winters was in here, because you neglect the punt return game and a punt goes 70 yards over Squirrel White's head. And I mean,
you lose to Arkansas because of it.
I mean, that special teams was a big part of losing that game. I mean, it's fully a three-phase game.
Because I mean, not only was it the punt over the head, it was the running into the kicker, roughing the kicker, whatever they called it, and that gave them 3 free points. So, in the grand scheme of things, special teams does have to perform, and that's not a position group that you can neglect.
No, I mean, we look at Vanderbilt game. I mean, Gilbert he bounced that 50-yarder in, and that really changed the game at that point. I mean, ever since Boo's gone back, he's changed some games.
He definitely
has. Can he change the game this week if we can give him in punt?
Yeah, I think
could Boo change a game this week? I mean,
I think that's a huge thing going into this game, is just special teams in itself, just because it is going to be 20 degrees. Anybody that's kicked the ball in 20-degree weathers, I'll be the first to say it is not fun. It does hurt. The ball's hard as a brick, and you catch it with your foot. it doesn't feel like you necessarily have a cleat on. It feels like you just shattered your foot no matter how good you contact the ball. And it does affect the way the ball flies. Gilbert's a kicker that can hit from 60. He can hit from over 60. During warm-ups against Arkansas, he did hit from 60. And then it's freezing cold outside. I mean, not necessarily freezing against Vanderbilt, but it was cold outside against Vanderbilt, and he barely sneaks over a 50-yard field goal. So it does definitely play a huge factor, and that essentially doesn't just come in on field goals. It comes in on kickoffs. You kick a kickoff short because the ball is hard. Either way, Tennessee could let up another kickoff return, and it also poses a huge question on the return game for Tennessee because the kickoff return guy, that's been different every single game.
Yeah.
It's been Peyton Lewis. It's been Selden. It's been Bishop. It's been Mike Matthews at times. And even in the Vanderbilt game, Peyton Lewis was in there, and then he got replaced. They say it was because he was banged up or something. I'm not sure. I think at times he's been back there returning kicks, and he's just not been good. He's not made the right decisions. I think he's a guy that's big, and he's fastest guy on the team pretty much, but he still thinks he has this big guy mentality. He just tries to run people over, which is kind of weird in my opinion. And there's been no production. There has been no production at all this season from kickoff returns. So, and you're going to get a ball kicked short or two in this game. It's just a matter of can you do something and can you avoid disaster?
Doc Wood says OSU won 13 all-time versus SEC bowl games. Betting favorite in 11. Let's hope it's 114 after this week. That's a pretty good one.
They are like 3 or 4, at home against SEC teams. But of course, I don't think they've played an SEC team at home since probably the 90s.
Pat, I'm drawing a blank on this one.
He's still part of the team. He's I'm pretty sure he's a running back, walk-on running back.
Oh, okay. Well, he may be needed this week with all the players they've lost at this point. Hopefully not.
And one of the things that, I looked at was these wide receivers that were hitting the portal. Did they actually play on special teams? And none of them didn't, surprisingly. Nimrod was the only guy that played really on special teams. He was a gunner on punt returns. And he got beat out in that position. Ever since the Alabama game, he hasn't been the gunner. So none of those guys even made an impact on special teams. So it's weird what special teams can do to a team.
Yeah. And I feel like with Nimrod, I feel like he had his chances.
He
didn't take advantage of it.
He had a lot of chances.
Arkansas game, he had a big drop. Kentucky had a touchdown he dropped. These guys, when you're not getting that much playing time, when you do, you got to take advantage of it or you're going to get surpassed. And, that's just the way it is. That's it. I feel like that's it, especially at Tennessee right now in every program. If you're a guy that you're going to, be there long term, you better show something out of the gates or you're going to get recruited over and passed up, and especially in this portal era, because coaches have to do what they have to do to win right now. It's that's just the nature of the beast right now. I think the last thing we got before we get out of here, of course, we talked portal. They've had 8 guys. Is there anybody that's hit the portal so far that you're like, man, I hate to see him hit it?
No. Nobody.
There's a couple guys I think had potential. I think Jordan Matthews. Now, obviously, I was high on Cam Selden. I think the injury threw him off this year. And I think he would have had a shot. But to me, I agree with what you said last week. They've got to go portal for running back.
Mm-hmm.
They have to. Because I don't see Sampson coming back. Now, if Sampson does come back, that lessens you're not going to need a portal running back.
I mean, if he comes back next season, the sky is a very low limit of what this team can do next season. If just Sampson returns.
Yeah. I don't see it, but stranger things have happened over time.
At this point, there's Ashton Genty, of course, is in front of him. Scattaboo's gotten pushed in front of him.
Mel Kiper didn't even have him as a top 10 running back.
They say the Caleb Johnson of Iowa, a lot of guys have them in front of him. Marion Hampton from North Carolina. A lot of them have him in front of them. If I'm him, third round, considering the season I just had, and I know that I could do the same thing next year with essentially a better offensive line, then
I
it's
think
got to be
third round
tempting.
you got to go. If you're fifth, sixth, seventh round, though,
I mean, I think he has first, second round potential. He should be getting first, second round potential after the season he's just had.
yeah,
But people are ignoring the obvious. I mean, he's a guy that's 60% of his yards have come after contact. So that's a lot of yards just after contact with the offensive line that necessarily hasn't been too great. I mean, they've been good. They've been good enough, but he's done a lot after getting hit. So there's a possibility that he comes back. I think it's a very small possibility. It wouldn't surprise me if he came back. I could see it happening. I just probably not.
I'd be surprised, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility either. I mean, I think it's especially my thing with it is I think the shelf life on running backs is a lot shorter.
Mhm.
You don't necessarily see the amount of dominant running backs like you used to. And I think that'll play into it. But I mean, if Sampson comes back, you don't need a portal running back. If he doesn't, you've got to go to the portal because then you've got Bishop, you've got Lewis, you've got DeJuan Morris, thank you, and you got Justin Baker. And two of them are freshmen. I know they're high on them. Peyton Lewis has seen minimal reps. Deshaun Bishop, I think Bishop could do some good things down there. But I think I don't see a guy. Peyton Lewis to me would be your most high end.
Yeah.
Running about highest ceiling out of the bunch. I think Bishop will be. Bishop has surpassed my expectations this year. Morris, they're very high on him. Baker has got a little bit of that Dylan Sampson in him. He's very fast. I think he's going to be a real good running back for them. But to me, you're going to have to go out and get that.
You have to.
RB1. I just think they're going to have to. Just same as they're going to have to go out and get a wide receiver on it as well. At this point, to me, you got to get a running back. You got to get a wide receiver. You got to get an interior offensive lineman. I think you can never have enough depth on a defensive line. Who knows? Maybe a safety. I don't think Tennessee needs a lot in the portal, but they need some on it. And if you shift Jordan Thomas back to safety when he comes back, you may not even need a safety.
No.
They're not going to need a linebacker because they're going to have a lot of guys and a lot of talent coming back. It's just going to be a case of developing that talent as well. But I think they're in pretty good shape there along the way. I just think it sucks that you lose depth during a bowl game.
It is.
I just think that's – you want to make an appearance? Come here. We might have a third. We're going to get an expert prediction right here. Come on up here.
Four-legged friend.
Yeah, come on up. We're going to get a prediction. Come on. All right, there we go. So we got predictions on tonight. Here we go. This guy doesn't know what to do right now. He's making his first appearance on camera. He doesn't even know he's fired up right now. Yep. But all right, let's make some predictions on tonight. Felix, what's your prediction? Felix says Tennessee 43, Ohio State 10. Dang, wow. He's going out.
Wow,
he's going
Felix
crazy
is bold.
tonight. All right. Oh, you said 23. Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
What's your
Still
prediction on tonight?
Mine is 20-17 Tennessee. I just think that both teams find the end zone twice. Ohio State gets a field goal. Tennessee gets a field goal. Max Gilbert hits a huge field goal late that just gives Tennessee just enough to edge out a win.
You stole my score. Actually, that's exactly where I was going with it. Yeah. So
you said that you didn't even think they were going to score 20. Neither team would.
I did, didn't I?
Yep.
So I'll go Tennessee 17, Ohio State 13.
13. Okay.
That's where I'm going at. 17-13. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. And I'm fully confident in expecting Tennessee to go up there and win this football game. I really am. I really am. All right.
It wouldn't surprise me if both teams scored in the 30s. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it could happen. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what to expect from either team in this game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, both teams are healthy. They've had the guys that were a little bit banged up should be back by now. So, it should be a lot of, I feel like there could be a lot of scoring.
I think if Tennessee gets the run game going, based on the progression we've seen from Nico,
Yeah.
it could. It could. I mean, the fact that I know Vanderbilt's not Ohio State, but still yet, the fact that they were able to get the offense going, put some points on Vanderbilt, who, again, I know is not Ohio State, but the way that game started and then they took over that game the way they did, I think it had to give some confidence to them. And again, I'll maintain this: the Big Ten's not the SEC.
Mm-mm.
I'll say it all day long. They can prove me wrong this weekend. The SEC's better until proven otherwise. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Nope. Should be a cold one, but should be a good one, if I had to say.
All right. Well, that's what we're hoping for. Saturday night, 8 o'clock ABC. This dude will be there with his I think he said he's going shirtless.
Yep.
Shirtless and wearing his jorts this weekend. So there we go. But we'll be live. There's basketball throughout the week on both sides. Portal. Hopefully we won't hear any more outgoing portal news on the football team this week. I did drop a video, a recorded one on baseball, losing one. I wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't heat up with second semester around the corner.
Yeah.
But appreciate you guys tuning in. Had a good show tonight. We'll be live after the game Saturday night. Hopefully that's not our last football game. We'll be live next Monday night, whether it's to talk about the next round or to wrap up the season. We'll be live one way or the other next Monday. He's Kerry, Frank. This is the House of Orange. Have a great rest of your evening. And it's always a great day to wear the orange.